And welcome everybody to another episode of Who's Got Clout here on CloutForum. My name is Mark Bentley. I'm here from Perth, Western Australia, co-hosted with Alex Roken, who's joining us from over in Russia. And our special guest today is the magical and amazing Darian Parrish. Darian, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, thank you, Mark.
Really appreciate you taking the time being with us today. So just for those that haven't come across you, you're very active on DeSo and very engaged in many different ways, which we'd love to explore today. But for those that haven't come across you, the little bio that we've got on our little promo here is, so Darian Parrish is Seattle entrepreneur and 3 times founder. With experience at Microsoft and industry depth in both software and finance, he focuses on innovation and progress, mixing business and science, and preparing the world for Web 3.0. And Darian, there's one line I saw on your LinkedIn about your description that really was talking about how you'd love to explore the edge of the possible. And I think that right there, that line makes me a big fan of yours for life, you know? So where do we start? You're an incredible man. What was it that led you, just starting there with your origin story, how did you find your way to DeSo? And what is it that triggered you to say yes?
Yeah, good question. So I believe it was on a lunch club, which is like a impromptu video meeting with a stranger, very much like CloutVid that we have, here on DeSo. And someone, just mentioned it offhand, and I went and checked it out. I believe it was amplified a lot by Twitter as well. But I didn't really have a big presence or was a big user of Twitter, and mainly just using it for following some financial folks there. And so why I was on Lunch Club is the pandemic had happened, spending a lot of time at home, wasn't talking to a lot of folks in the area. So I said, let's have a conversation. And it looked like DeSo was a place to discover new things. I like adopting technologies early, so I thought I would try it. And this was purely from a user perspective. But then I got more into it, from the technology perspective and what the mission and vision was.
Fantastic. Yeah, I can appreciate the appeal that would start, because it was one of those things. I use Facebook for work and things, but there was something lacking in it for the last 15 years or so, and that really turned up on DeSo. That there is something on the edge there, isn't there, that's really exciting. So in your experience, so what, with your background, as it says, you're an entrepreneur, you come from the finance, the software. How long have you been working in this? Is this something you've been interested in since you were young, in finance, software development, that kind of thing?
I wouldn't say so. So, I grew up in Hawaii and spent most of my time outside, and doing a lot of travel as well, thinking, understanding a little bit about culture and kind of the search that everyone goes on in some ways of what is the purpose, how do I find my purpose? And I think a lot of the studies that I went through were really just driven by my passions and curiosity. It wasn't about finding a really specific career, and so that's, I think, what was really interesting about entrepreneurship and startups, is just taking an idea and running with it. So I also really spent a lot of time doing things that were business like when I was younger. So we have a lot of people here into collectibles, but I was doing the baseball card thing as well. So I'm familiar with that. It's been almost 2 decades since I've done that. But the idea for me was making a profit. Understanding the appreciation, the different qualities, and wanting to trade that, and then multiply that profit into more profit, and then working honest jobs like lawn mowing and other stuff as well. So I think all that sort of led up to the intersection with an interest in engineering and technology, sort of led up to the intersection of finance, with the business endeavors, multiplying the profit, then having the ability to use technology to make better financial decisions. So it wasn't like a really obvious path to start with, but everything sort of came together and fell into place.
So being that you're from Hawaii, I believe I understand you would surf a bit. Is that correct?
Yes, I used to quite a bit. Now I've been in Seattle for quite a long time. I'm very out of practice, but whenever I go back, I do. When I was down in San Diego for the DeSo meetup with Nacho Average and Audio Node, I got in some surfing down there as well.
I bring that up. I'm an Australian myself, but everyone always says, "Oh, do you surf?" And sadly, I've never had the chance. I think I've snowboarded more than I surfed. But the reason I bring that up is because it's as you were describing your journey, into starting with the entrepreneurship at a young age and riding the edge of what's possible. It's would you say it's similar to surfing? The ride that you've taken in this process, where you need to be really present on that wave, right on the edge of just responding as opposed to getting ahead of yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a very, very adequate metaphor. And I think surfing is much more challenging than many people might think. And in fact, when I started snowboarding here, I was very happy about it because the wave is just there for the taking. A lot of the battle is catching the wave and then dropping in on a steep face. And I think that's sort of when you think about trying to innovate in a space and do something new, a lot of people want to look sort of backwards at like what's been done. And if you try and do that on a wave, you're going to get hit by the lip, and you're going to wipe out pretty hard. But so I think there are some, the metaphor is appropriate. And I think also just not following the crowd, picking your line. Everyone surfs with a little bit of different style. And so each ride is going to look a little different. Everyone, takes a slightly different line, and really takes a different path on the wave. So I think, in innovation, if you really want to attack the edge of what's possible, it's, not just looking at what's been done, but looking at, where would you start? Sort of, people call this, first principles thinking. It's just like, if you didn't, really know existing solutions, like what makes sense when you kind of break it down to the very like fundamentals. And I think that's great. Actually, I did post about this on BitClout about my process for, thinking through a new problem, and then, doing extensive research with some of these encyclopedias I have behind me here. I think it's all, you got to go in the right order in some cases, but at the same time, sometimes, a little chaos breeds something good.
It opens up the thinking a little bit, hey, and allows a bit of exploration into the unknown. So with you, with everything you've done up to this point, do you still, like, when you've come into DeSo, at that point when you kind of decided, okay, this is something I'm going to put energy into and the rest, is there a part of you that's thinking, what am I doing here? Like, is this, a little bit nervous about possibly making a mistake, or were you going in with a confidence of just trusting, feeling, this is something worth going into?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have a healthy amount of skepticism on everything, but in general, I'm very much optimistic, and so I think I wanted to go in and say, let's see what this is for really what it is, and not listen to anything else that's being said about it. So I think I didn't have high hopes going in because I was just exploring, but also it became part of my technology thesis with Web3, and part of what I do is investing through a partner of mine, and we wanted to identify new technologies that were really meaningful, a lot of stuff that was crypto native. And so I was already in the space to some extent, and even though that wasn't how I discovered DeSo, it was through that kind of spontaneous conversation. I was looking at it more from a technology thesis angle of what is this decentralization of social media going to work, and is it interesting for what reason, A, B, and C reasons. And so I think that's more of how I was approaching it. And in fact, I wasn't really that active for the first few months, because I'm not a social media person. I'm more about deep thought and a lot of hard grinding. And so for me, I wasn't that active. And now, as I've started to come to understand the platform more and really work with all the great people here, talk to a lot of the founders of the projects here, use all the tools that have been built on DeSo. I don't know that there's anyone who uses the tools more than I do, or more of the tools than I do. So I think that gave me a lot of understanding, and felt compelled to post a little more about what's going on here, and how we can shape the project and how we can move things forward. So I've really become a part of the ecosystem in a way that I wasn't fully expecting when I was looking at it more of just through a thesis driven lens.
Yeah, I can absolutely appreciate that. It kind of grows on you, doesn't it? The community. So
absolutely.
Something actually I thought maybe we'll cover right now is as you say, Web 3.0. Now, this is a term that's being thrown around a lot. It's something that within the community, people are really understanding. How would you describe it in a nutshell for people that might be watching this that don't quite understand the concept, or might not fully appreciate? Because I think there's a lot of people that don't fully appreciate just how game-changing DeSo is as a concept for Web 2.0 moving onwards. How would you describe in a nutshell what Web 3.0 is, the concept?
Yeah, I mean, maybe the simplest version is money native internet. And so it's really just that third generation of internet, but it's really maybe you could call it, a triangulation between social money and the connection of the internet. So it's that's why something like the creator economy is sort of being bucketed in to some extent with Web3, and just the ability to have like crypto native payments, in DeSo is really part of Web3. So I would say that like, it's actually not that challenging to think about when you're kind of coming from the full cycle. So you start with Web 1, like before there was any social, and even e-commerce was sort of like not really a thing. And then Web 2, you get the where it's like you have user generated data. That was like really what defined Web 2 is like initially everything was static web pages, and you didn't even have user interaction, so they weren't even really that dynamic. My first when I was building my first website back in the 90s, it was just pure HTML. There wasn't even CSS. You just styled it in line, and that was Web 1. And then you had Web 2, user generated data on Facebook, MySpace, if folks remember that. And then now we're coming into this Web 3, where you have user generated data, but you own that, you can own that user generated data, and now it has connectivity through blockchains, and as posterity, it's data that's generated that should live forever.
It's pretty amazing watching. It's almost like watching evolution, right? Like biological evolution, except we've got the technological evolution as it becomes more and more complex and able to do more and more things. And it leaves it up to our imagination now to see, okay, well, how are we going to use Web 3.0? So what are some of the things you're most excited about with Web 3.0, DeSo, and the technologies that are coming, the innovations that are happening? What is it that gets you the most excited?
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know that I have like a personal horse in the race where I'm excited about a specific functionality or something. I'm more thinking about solving big problems. So for example, people need connection for certain reasons. Just if you think about communications and the age of prosperity, when we had easy transportation, communications, all that brought the prosperity that we see in the last 400 years. There's other things like property rights, but like really transportation and communication and energy, electricity, have been one of those order of magnitude changes, and we're ready for an order of magnitude change. We've now been able to connect, and that's been something that's been life-changing. In many countries where there's not available resources close by, being able to just go online and get information about taking care of someone who's sick or something like that has been, again, life-changing, saving a life in that case. So I think we're ready for that next iteration of people want to now have seamless being able to seamlessly move around the web, almost like I mentioned with transportation being one of those huge order of magnitude changes, is being able to be increasing mobility. We need to increase our digital mobility, and that's something that is possible with if you think about DeSo, being able to take your data between apps or your followers between apps. It's, again, posterity there. It is preserved. No one cuts you off and a centralized database gets wiped out and everything's gone. You now have ultimate portability of that data, and that allows you to be digitally mobile.
That's an amazing thing to contemplate, really. It's again, I think so many, including many users on BitClout itself, might not comprehend the change, like you say, that this innovation is bringing. Like just thinking I dropped my Facebook profile to come over here and left behind everything, because like you say, you can't move it over. You can sit and post for a month saying, I'm moving over here, I'm moving, and try, which they will then try to shut down. Whereas in this case, like you say, it's, well, if this platform starts, mucking about and not being all that great, then it's simple. I'll just log in through another one and keep going, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So do you see this as having a big change on how we can adopt possibly economics like, crypto, et cetera, and integrate that more into the mainstream in that sense?
I think that's that's such a good question, and I absolutely do think that, and that's one of the things that I think is so positive about crypto and younger folks getting into NFTs and things like that is learning about economics at a younger age. Like people talk about financial literacy, but there's also things beyond just personal finances, but understanding business models and economic drivers and thinking more broadly when this is global or distributed. Like that's something that I'm really excited about people understanding a little more about, because I have this financial background and I've always been interested and thought that way, but almost none of my peers growing up could care one bit about understanding economics. And so I think this is really positive because it lowers that barrier. One of the reasons why they probably didn't care is nothing was like explained in simple terms. It wasn't accessible. And now it's you just go onto your favorite platform and you already have to start to learn a little bit about the economics. And then but also it's just pervasive. Anywhere you go, you understand that now there's an economic model to interact there. And it's sort of been the precedent's been set in crypto, and like you said, it sort of parlays into whatever else you might want to do. Any new app is sort of crypto native now if it's built on DeSo, and I think that's something that's so interesting. And even just the concepts like tipping that were thought of so differently before diamonds now just make a lot more sense when it's so easy. Like friction actually changes, I think. I don't know if I would say that friction is a changer of user behavior, but it does it doesn't change like how a user interacts, but it changes like if they will or not interact. So like I think a lot of people underestimate how big of a problem friction is in any process. Sometimes just shaving off 1 second of load time, or like, if you just look at SEO, if you know SEO, anyone who's listening knows SEO, like load time is such a huge factor for SEO. And bounce rate, if you have, slow load time, and then it's not just load time. It's, if you think about, the friction in just doing something, is it a hassle? Maybe it's not even time consuming, but it's just painful. I think eliminating that friction and making things one button click is how you change. I guess you can say that does change user behavior because it's a feature that never would have been used otherwise, and now they use it. But I think it happens when you don't have to force a change. Forcing a change in user behavior almost never works, right? A lot of products, in the VC space and the startup space, if a startup founder starts talking about needing to educate customers, the VCs are kind of wary, because like that means spending a lot and having to be a push force rather than a drawing them in. And I think if you have something so compelling, you get that pull effect, and that's really what you would hope for.
It reminds me of the old Buckminster Fuller quote, around don't try to kind of change the old world, but just start giving solutions that are appealing and attract people to them instead, that draw them forwards. And makes me think of like Elon Musk with Tesla. It's like, I mean, from my understanding, they don't even use marketing. The innovation itself attracts their market in. So I guess that brings up something, what's your thoughts in the sense of, because one kind of byproduct of all this technology, social media and everything, is people have gotten very distracted from their time. They've got very short attention spans and the rest. But after listening to what you were just sharing, it almost makes me wonder, is this also kind of a byproduct of an evolution of the way we're working as a society, where one thing is to say we have a short attention span, but maybe also that we need faster solutions, more intuitive, quick, movements. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, I would say that's fair. I would say, Mark, you got it down. You don't even need me here. I think you're right. And, it's definitely the case that, again, going back to the newer generation, some of the reason why the attention span's so short is like, gotta, look back between monitors and like trade an NFT for, make 10x return in 5 minutes and stuff. So like, it's not like, it's not like the old days where a short attention span meant like staring off, into the fields or something, which maybe, again, me being an outdoors person younger, I think I did gain a lot from the deep thought. But also, now it's like you can be so much more productive. And I think some people worry about that, just like trying to over optimize and have everything be so efficient. But I mean, I'm really all for that. It's like the robots discussion where everyone's, we don't need these robots, but like, do you have a washer and dryer? Those are the most favorite robots in my house. I'm using them all the time.
That's a good point.
And so I think, the same thing, if I'm spending 2 hours doing laundry, I'm not, building the future on DeSo. If I could have the robot fold up the laundry after it's done, that saves me another, 10 minutes or whatever. And now, well, I try and make it even quicker, maybe 2 or 3 minutes. And now I'm, spending more time on building tech. So I think that's the way I look at it. Is you're absolutely right. Like if someone's saying, oh, no one's reading this post, it's, maybe it's too long, maybe it's not attention grabbing enough. And I think that's the problem, is people did figure out, oh, it has to be more attention grabbing. But we do still need room for like long posts. We have Sandy Rose on the platform who does some great long posts, and sometimes I give her a hard time about it being a novel, but I'm actually reading through that whole post because it's engaging. It's so I think that's something that we still need a part of, and we need healthy dialogue around that. I'm part of a Discord called Collective Brain, started by someone on the platform, and the idea is that we still want to read long papers, maybe peer review stuff, get into a deep discussion about it. But when we're just trying to flip that NFT for 10x, like we got to be able to bounce around a little bit, and we're going to use the most frictionless apps and the most frictionless functions. And I think part of having a short attention span is potentially going to mean that we have more productivity. Humans actually can't really multitask. So some people say they're multitasking. They're normally just doing a bunch of things badly or poorly. And so if you can have the different kind of multitasking, which is being able to switch back and forth really quickly with what some might call a short attention span, but being able to have hyper focus on different things and switch back without getting confused, where you were in the process, that is incredibly useful skill to learn. And I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with. But as we get better tools, we learn how to silence the notifications on Discord, but then also remember to check in there at the right times. Like being able to have that switching context, I think that will be built more into MetaLink, or sorry, the metaverse and Web3. And I mentioned MetaLink, which is Jake Udell's company. I'm not really up to speed on what the vision is there now, but when he first described it, it was something like connecting Discord and DeSo. And I think that's interesting because then you can sort of seamlessly navigate between the two, and it's not like, okay, I need to check my Discord over here, I need to have my DeSo up here. Like I need to make sure I'm like on this cadence. They're just sort of seamlessly integrated. You never have to worry about missing anything. And I think that's something that I'm looking forward to.
Oh, fantastic. And I was diagnosed ADHD in my mid-20s as adult ADHD. And I remember at the time I cried because I felt recognized for my chaos at one point. And as the years went, as DeSo came on and as this has been happening, it's like hearing your words, it almost sounds like this is ADHD. If you have ADHD, then that it's more that hyper focus, right? This is our time. It's now a gift, whereas it was a curse in the old world that moved slowly.
Yeah, well, we have an account called ADHD on the platform. Rob, we hung out a bit in LA. It's spelled the number 80, like 80, but with letters 80 and then HD. So Rob's a very nice guy. He actually talks about how to make ADHD from a curse into something that's helpful. So really nice guy, and go check out his content.
Fantastic. That's awesome. So now really want to jump in. So with this being said, as you were saying, all these robots that we have around our house and different bits that the Industrial Revolution has brought to our tables, you now have more time to be able to put your energy into the innovations, into the cutting edge of things. So here on DeSo, what is it that you are most enjoying working on? Because you've got a few projects going, haven't you?
Yeah, so I started out with Clout Trends, which was almost like I want to call it a bits today competitor, but it actually started like around the same time or a week after or something. And I actually wasn't aware of like bits today evolving and didn't know about the infamous arts post, but I did know NVO or Nick was working on some writing. And I saw some of his posts and like, so I sent him a draft to like review and we talked about it. And he asked if I wanted to put anything in bits today. And I wanted to do my own thing. So started, writing there. There's a bunch of editions there you can read just about like some of the thought-provoking stuff around was going on BitClout. And then some of the trends, like what were the user trends and some of the idea was to get a little more into the data. That still hasn't happened as, Postgres, the SQL database has been kind of, not easy to access, and hopefully that's getting fixed. But then we'll be able to run a lot of really, really easy analysis and understand a lot more about what's going on there. And so that was the idea behind that project. And I thought that was important just from, people trying to understand like what is BitClout, what is, why does this matter, what's happening on BitClout. And but I was kind of hoping some more people would join the bandwagon. I like, wouldn't be just me, it'd be kind of like a couple folks I'm writing, and we've had a couple guest writers, which has been great. So that's still going on, and now I've done some video interviews as well, and it's just sort of, today there was a poll. I asked who's plans to use the Diamond app, and check the post there, but I think we had 28 votes, and it was about like a 60-40 split, 60% saying no, 40% saying yes. And so I think that was interesting. I want to get some more polling data out. I think that's something that's been missing is, we do have certain users that will post some of the blockchain data. But we also need what is the community thinking, and do we really understand the user base and what they want, or what, I think that's been lacking. And so those are those projects. And I have a few index projects that are sort of from my financial background. Giving people exposure to a bunch of creators in just one coin just makes it so much simpler. You just buy one coin and then you're owning 50 creators. The most recent one's called Active 50. That's to help promote engaged, creators. And Mark, you are on that index. So I think the idea there is like, yeah, you want to reward engaged creators. And I know Natter's talked about, somehow they're going to have a creator fund and do that. But I think, people have been waiting a really long time. So it's better to get the ball rolling. And now, he can look and see what, someone else's methodology shows as the engaged creators, rather than, who knows what they're going to come up with, kind of like the hot feed, probably not the best tuned parameters there. But so I think, that there's these projects I kind of work on when I see no one else is doing it. I don't want to, be working on the fourth or fifth, example of something that's already been done.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I also want to just give acknowledgement for what you have done, even in like you say, the top 50. When that came and then seeing my name in there, one of the things, because I work a lot with self-awareness, that's kind of my passion is, I've got a business called Live Your Genius. It's helping people find what their genius is, what they're born to be, they're here for. And, so I was watching my response, because I'm always watching with social media, that little bit of the ego that gets fed, the little trigger, the little bits that happen. And when I saw that post and saw myself included in that, I was kind of watching, and as much as there's that little teenager part that's like, getting excited on that, the bigger part of me was more feeling recognized in the sense of what I'm offering has value here. If I'm on this list, then it means there's people want what I'm offering, in which case I'm not wasting my time. I'm not throwing it at the wall, like, trying to be special or trying to be this. It's like, it's a genuine thing. And that was really heartwarming, and that was really encouraging. And so I really want to say, those things, like with the polls, hearing people's actual thoughts and feelings, like what you're doing, I feel like it is such an important part that often it seems in startups, and you know much better than me, that it seems that there's a lot of focus on the development, the structure, the building of things. And sometimes the community management seems to be the later thing that comes in, you know, to be able to listen properly. Is that a trend you see out there in general?
Yeah, well, first of all, I appreciate you sharing your thoughts there, because a lot of this stuff takes a lot of work. Getting engagement scores together and and grokking the data, and so it's good that someone's appreciating it. The As far as trends, around startups sort of delaying their community communication, it's a little frustrating, but I've been an offender myself in past startups, and so I know I understand. So like to everyone here who has a project that I've maybe complained about communication on, I get it. I've been the offender, but I think it's always like a continual improvement. Like the goal should be to do better, not to kind of delay it further than it needs to be. Building in secrecy is also not very like useful. It's actually like there's a new build in public movement, which I think is very healthy. Telling more details about the roadmap, getting more feedback. I think it's just a smarter way to build. And that's something that I think is sort of new thinking, but I think a lot of people will get there and realize it. And the core team has started doing that with asking a few people of feedback, but I think that's we need broader reach. So there's sort of a new initiative I'm working on with DeSo community reps, which we'll have a couple stages to talk about that tomorrow. But the idea is that we could represent the community better and really get the core team to actually talk to us, and get some more vision there. But it's not just the core team; it's a lot of the projects on DeSo. They have a Discord or something. They haven't posted an update in like months, or they have an account here and they haven't posted anything. And then you ask and they're like, oh yeah, we're still building. Okay, no one really cares anymore because you haven't told them anything. So I think that's what's going to help, is when people come to DeSo and they don't see all these dead apps, that there's just no like info about it, especially when they're highly positioned, like they have the top 3 or 4 or 5 coin price out of any project, and then they're kind of dead. That's not what we want. We have a lot of great apps. We got Cloutcast, we got CloutVid, we got Bitcast, we got so many different good apps to use. We got CloutFeed, I primarily use that on mobile. We have great nodes. I think those aren't getting the attention they deserve, and those are the projects that are actually communicating. So I think we got to reward communication more. Just like I said, we got to reward engagement more. We got to keep driving towards this. I know it's kind of a challenge, but I think it's just like everyone's been waiting for this sort of. It's like a merit-based system. That's part of Web3 that I think is. You asked what was exciting me. It's not personally exciting me, but I think it's important that it's more merit-based, and your reputation really goes with you across the web. And it's based on data, and it's not just who it's not network, it's not gatekeepers. I think that's something that is really important to me with DeSo, and so far we've seen a few issues with that, and I think we want to get past those as soon as possible.
Absolutely. There was a bit to digest in all of that. It's just incredible, Darian. For me, it's almost like I feel like we're standing on the edge of this cliff of possibility, and what is ahead of us is pretty much with what we're coming with Web 3.0. And as you talk about, it's like it just feels like it's up to our imaginations now. Like the tools that we've been given, we haven't even begun to scratch the surface of, and if we're going to be able to even get close to maximizing that potential, communication is going to be so vital. And so I love that you're reinforcing that, and I appreciate what you're doing as well, because it's one of those things as a user, because I come from the user, kind of coming in and being more in I guess really the role I play these days. I kind of just I came into this without saying what my background was, and just was myself, which is what I wanted to do here. And then I found really it's just the inspiration, keeping people inspired, moving forwards and remembering the bigger vision. And But as we go forwards, it really is that thing of one of the challenges I find is there's so much potential in this platform already, and I don't know where to find it. I don't, it's, as that ADHD brain, I can't just switch between them because I don't know where the other one was. It's almost like you've forgotten something and you draw somewhere and it's like, oh, where was that app again? And it takes, so I don't get to jump between so much. And then the communication of trying to people, it's hard to feel heard when, people want to express something to the team. And so everything that you're working on, everything you've just talked about and putting forward, it really does bring a kind of, core stability for me in feeling, okay, someone's watching this, someone's working. I'm sure many others are, and people watching will hopefully feel the same, that these tools that you're creating, to be able to gather that information, because that's one of the challenges I see is with these startups, they have so much going on, but they don't always prioritize or understand the value of the communication. It can feel like a challenge, right? Because if you have 3,000 people a day hitting you and your developer team saying, you're doing this wrong, do it like this, then it's very hard to hear, right? You become deaf. But with someone like yourself, and then from the sounds of, the things that you're working on and working with others on, creating those funnels in a way that can capture that noise and then break it down so that they can actually start digesting the essence of it. I think that's such a vital part.
Yeah, I think so, Mark. And it's you summarized that really well. It's, when you're overwhelmed, your default is to do nothing. Like, so just not communicate at all and sort of retract and try and like be introspective and maybe, heads down. But when you have something manageable, then it's all of a sudden, able to do, you're able to do that. It's like now you can have better communication. So I think, we want to really hopefully get to that point where everyone can feel communication is manageable, and it's not just like, the de facto of nothing at all or very, little. So yeah, very well summarized, Mark.
Awesome. All right, Darian, I mean, I hope one day I get to sit with you in person and we get to sit and just have a drink and talk for hours on end, because I can see that your mind would be a wonderland for me to explore through. But Alex, I know, has a lot of questions. So Alex always brings some good questions towards the end. Alex, how's your internet connection? Do you need me to ask them, or are you're solid out there?
It seems it's all right for now, but I'm sure I will have you back if something happens.
No worries, Alex. I got you back. Just before you start, Alex, just a shout out to anyone watching live out on YouTube, YouTube or Twitch, or on BitClout itself. Please do engage, pop a comment in, say hello. If you've got any questions for Darian or comments, chuck them in there. We'll bring them into the session, and you can always join us live in the Zoom meeting as well. So I'll keep an eye on that, Darian, while Alex now will throw a few questions and I'll see you after the Alex's section.
Perfect.
Alex,
thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. Darian, I'm going to ask you a few questions about your specialization, which is tech and doing startups. So I think the question that I'm going to ask can be seen as a little bit strange, but this one is ignored by majority in the run for profits and making their own impact in the history of world. But from my point of view, this question is crucial to keep in mind, and I want to know your vision on it. So what's the mission of technology tech for the world and humanity? How do you see this?
Great. So for me, it's about advancing, we want progress. Human progress is something that is measurable and something that's been an interest of mine. The founder of Stripe, Patrick Collison, has some great writing on this and resources at his website. But if we're not sort of bettering the world, we're ending up with something, improving the quality of life, feeling like once we're done here that things are better in some way. I think that's kind of unfortunate. So that's the way I view it. I think anyone can make technology and sell it for money and be profit driven. That's also a thing. But for me, it's sort of personal when I think about family members, and it's sort of like how I think when you're treating someone poorly, or if someone is, think about that being your family member or something. Like, why would you be doing that? That's why, you got to treat everyone with love and kindness. So I think the same thing applies. Like, when people talk about the future for their children or something, even if you don't have children, it doesn't matter. Think about the future. Think about the future of everyone who was there, and the predecessors of us who tried to make our lives better. It took a lot of work to get to where we are. So I think it's an iterative process. I think technology is hugely important in changing our quality of life. And again, I pointed some of examples out of that in the talk, just whether it be electricity, whether it be transportation and communication. And the same thing is going to apply for now with telemedicine for people who don't have access otherwise. A lot of these things, really are going to be game changing. And so I think the entrepreneurs who really, solve the problem and really, drive to get there, they're mission driven. And it's for making a better, quality of life. It's not profit driven. We talked about Tesla and Elon Musk earlier in the show. That's mission driven. Like he's on a mission, with SpaceX. He wants to get to some planets. He wants to make us Musk wants to make us an interplanetary planetary species. That's something that he's on a mission for. Renewable, driving sustainable energy and transport with Tesla. Yes, the profit comes with that. And, we should, I'm okay with entrepreneurs getting rewarded, but, me personally am more about giving back. I'm not trying to accumulate that kind of wealth, but it's really mission driven. You're not going to succeed if it's not mission driven. There are very few founder-led companies now that aren't critically mission driven. And so I think that's, something that's really important. I think that's something that comes with the founders, not always present in professional CEOs that get hired. That's why, as a public markets investor, I'm mostly looking for founder led companies, because it's really night and day difference from mission driven to non-mission driven.
Wow, really very detailed answer and explanation to all of the things. And this question was asked because many entrepreneurs just forgetting about the initial goal of technology and why they're doing this. And from my point of view, many just consider it's like you said in the beginning of the statement, it's all about progress. But it's not about, from my point of view, it's not about just progress for the progress. I think it's about progress for the, like you said, like you mentioned, for the improving quality of life of individuals and enhancing interactions between humans, because this is what we are. We are social things, and we are making technologies just to come up with better ideas how we can manage our interactions better.
Totally agree.
Thank you, Darian. And my second part of this question is, what's the role and the part of Web 3.0 and decentralization in this mission?
Yeah, so decentralization, Alex, I'm getting a little feedback in your mic, maybe, but decentralization, I think, is been in the discussion a lot recently, because people have been saying, do users really care about decentralization? Like, is that harming DeSo? And to be honest, it's not harming them at all. It's a huge benefit. Maybe talking about it a lot before anyone understands like what it is a little bit harmful, right? But it's not that they don't care about decentralization. It's they care more about the benefits that it provides. So I think this, with Web3, it's, no one cares that it's called Web3. They're just going about their lives, right? Everyone's just doing their thing. But when you start seeing the benefits of being able to, get rewarded anywhere through tips, you see, the benefit of e-commerce being, you don't have to think about it. You don't have to set up strange accounts and, have a piece of plastic. That's going to be things where you start to think, okay, I'm getting why Web3 is so great. Everything's seamless. I've eliminated, a lot of friction, but time as well. I've gotten back a lot of time, our most valuable asset. So I think, with this technology, the role of technology here is really like, because it's such a software layer, we still have to think about the real world. So we still have to build hardware that enables this software layer. So that's, something that we're not having enough, engineers in the hardware space. So, for chip making and other things, like we still need that. So I think maybe that somewhat answers your question, but a little bit wandering.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And I just, while you were speaking about it and describing all the things, just few thoughts came to my mind, and I just want to add to your position that this is exactly the decentralization, and Web 3.0 is just a perfect example of how technology improves our interactions in a society, because blockchain provides us with absolutely innovative way of building the trust between users. So every step is recorded and is there forever. And this what provides us with the trust that we didn't have before. And from my point of view, the previous world was based on the middlemen, like platforms, like other bureaucracy, and so on and so forth. And this what Web 3.0 and decentralization remove from our horizon and gives us an end-to-end experience and more freedom, and it's beautiful from my point of view.
Yeah, well, really quick on that, you mentioned it being, something that now we have trust. It's sort of like trust through everything being trustless. So like, for example, smart contracts, like there is no trust. You don't have to trust the middleman because there is no middle person there. So I think that's really what's different here. And, decentralization, there's just so many benefits. Thinking just about resiliency of the network, that's something that, we want to think about long term, especially as there's sort of natural disasters or events happening. There's governance that we didn't talk about at all, which is programmatic governance. I'm not sure anyone's satisfied with their nation state government, so like there's really a lot of improvements on all fronts here.
Yeah, absolutely. And the cherry on the top of the cake is that this technology has built what we didn't have before, haven't had before. It's a new form of social interactions from my point of view, and this is the most essential part, because all technology serves us, not we serve technology. And we need to consider all the improvements from this. So, okay, let's move from technical questions and speaking about technology entrepreneurs to more about you. So I will start with the easy one, and then there will be a hard question for you. Do you like space movies?
Do I like what?
Space movies.
Space movies. Well, I've always been really busy, so I haven't really watched many movies. But my wife and I recently watched the Alien movies, and that was sort of interesting. I did watch the first gen Star Wars as well, or like the 4, 5, and 6 or whatever. I don't think I've seen the other ones, but the good old classic space stuff. I enjoyed those, but I'm not really geeking out on that stuff now. But I think space is such an important part of understanding of science, and so I'm very interested there. It's just splitting focus and trying to cover all the bases. Also really interested in the deep sea that we don't understand a lot about either, and it's on our planet. So yep.
And what place would you want to visit in space if you would be a Superman?
Oh, wow. I sort of want to go all the way out to the edge, go out, in the universe and kind of check around. That's sort of how I approach everything is, everyone's focused, on the planets maybe. And, I want to see a little bit of a different perspective.
Wow, cool. So you're always trying to put yourself on the edge and to go further.
Yeah, well, I used to be more of a risk taker. I raced motorcycles and did some stuff that I like to get very much so on the edge. But I think that's really where the feeling of life happens.
Wow.
Sorry, Alex. I just have to jump in here and say, Darian, you've just become my favorite person on BitClout. I'm a big motorcycle fan myself. Haven't had one for 10 years since becoming a dad, but I want to get one this spring. So thank you for the inspiration.
I have a post with a photo of me from maybe about 70 days ago or something, right when NFTs came about, that you can check out. Has a photo of me there. I think I minted it as an NFT and no one bought it, so I think I closed the auction. So have to revive that, or you can check it out.
Sweet, I'll go check it out. Sorry, Alex, back to you.
Yeah, it's fine, man. So to close our space thematic for today, could you name 4 crew members that you would take with you on the spaceship?
Oh, some crew members I take with me on the spaceship. This is actually a really tough one. We require a lot of thought to give the true answer.
So let's avoid the thing that you can hurt someone without telling the names. So you can choose anyone in the history and in the world.
Oh, yeah. So not someone on DeSo, so we don't offend other DeSo members. Yeah. I again, that would even take some thought. Like I like to be, I'd want to be well prepared. And so, you need someone with a little bit different skill sets. It's almost like picking co-founders. Like you don't want to pick a couple of the same people that, have the same skills. Also like building projects on DeSo, you got to get a little bit of a variety of each. So, maybe you need to bring someone who's entertaining just so you can, still have some.
It's like in psychology session when you come to the doctor, he asks you, and you need to answer the first thing that comes to your mind.
Yeah, I really don't enjoy sessions like that. But yeah, so I would probably bring Mr. Musk with me because he seems pretty capable, and then as far as maybe bring some of the Beatles with me to provide some good music as well. If we can bring back a few of them as well. Those are the first thoughts that come to mind.
Wow, cool. Very nice choice, man. So this one is the hard one, and you need to open your mind and be a little bit innovative on it. So what gift would you prepare to Nadir's wedding if you were chosen to represent the DeSo community?
What would I wear?
What would you what gift would you prepare
what gift?
Nadir's wedding if you were chosen to represent of DeSo community there?
Wow. I think I don't understand. Like, I don't know a whole lot about Nader. We got that podcast from him, and it sounds like he wants to maybe freeze himself at some point in time into cryogenics. But so maybe like a little mini replica. Maybe he can make a little freezer, and then maybe he can put his hand in there or something. Get some DNA in there. You probably have to attach that back to something else at some point, but that would kind of be something that might be he might appreciate, but also would be humorous to the community.
Wow. That's cool. So, and the last one, very simple. What trends in tech really excites you?
Oh, it's actually not really simple because I think a lot of them are quite exciting. I think quantum computing is very interesting for me. And a lot of people say, oh, that's something that's overhyped. It's really not. Like if you understand the amount of the types of computation that can be done and the amount of computation that can be done. For example, like if you can crack any encryption with quantum computing if you knew how to program it to actually work with quantum computing. So because it's it can run through essentially that many iterations, if you will, very quickly. So I think a lot of people, when something's not there yet, they just get sour on it. And we've seen that with BitClout and DeSo, right? Someone comes on from another social platform and it's but when you have someone who really enjoys technology, is really an early adopter, really understands that you got to believe in these things now for them to even come to fruition. I think that's something that's very interesting. I spent a few days programming some qubits and the quantum computing through D-Wave. They gave my previous startup some free quantum computing, and we ran a few machine learning algorithms on there. And the problem is not having the infrastructure. You can't just call the same packages you have in Python, the scikit-learn or PyTorch or TensorFlow. You have to essentially write custom code to be able to get any machine learning done there. So same problem that's happening on DeSo right now is everyone wants an SDK or something that makes it easier to build on DeSo. That's something that once quantum computing starts getting more of that infrastructure, I think it's very interesting.
Wow, awesome. Thank you so much, Darian. I have all answers that I was seeking for.
Perfect. Is there anything else from the audience? Anything else from Mark? Those weren't too tough. I think I'm still okay after that.
Yeah, you haven't knocked him out, Alex. We don't have many people interacting live at the moment. It seems to be a bit of a lull on the platform, interestingly, in different ways at times. But we often get a lot of it in replay as well. And Darian, to be honest, I think you are still an undiscovered diamond as far as for myself, for example. I saw you around, but again, being a bit ADHD, don't always go deep on things. But after our session here, I do you have a podcast yourself?
I actually do. Well, I'm starting a new podcast. I have a previous podcast called Founders with Purpose. You can listen to that on any major player. And I'm about to launch a crypto podcast. And so there'll be more of me. And then also, I like interacting on CloutVid. I'm going to try and use Chime In a bit more, a Clubhouse alternative on DeSo. I like to support the DeSo stuff. So that's generally where you'll find me.
Great. Well, I'm definitely part of your fan club now, and I'll be helping where I can to get the word out there, because I think it'll be good to get us. And also, I just want to be around and having these kinds of conversations with you, because they are the kind that excite me. That can start exploring that edge in that sense. So really appreciate everything you've done.
I love it. Thank you so much for having me, Mark.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And is there any last things you'd like to say before we start stitching it up, or?
No, I think that's it. I did mention we're having a few stages tomorrow to discuss, potential community rep program. Those will be on the Cloutcast Discord stage. So there's a post about it. I think I reclouted it. Jason Devlin's also reclouted it and mentioned it. So we hope to get community members there and just be hopefully a discussion sort of like this, but with more interacting.
All right, fantastic. So that's Cloutcast. So I'll be checking that out as well. And everyone who's watching, get in on it. And if you're watching the replay, chuck comments underneath and tag us in it, whoever you want to ask the questions to, and we'll try and follow up and keep up on that. Darian, thank you so much for everything you've done for the platform and what you keep on bringing to the table. And I look forward to seeing you shine more and more with your wisdom and innovation. It's exciting, really, really exciting.
Really appreciate it, Mark and Alex. Thank you so much for having me. I think what you're doing with CloutForum and getting everyone involved is exactly what we need.
Thank you, Darian, for joining us today. And thank you, Mark, for hosting a very great conversation with Darian. A lot of useful information. Darian, you are just brilliant. Your mind just a piece of art.
Thank you, Alex.
Awesome.
And, again, happy to talk anytime and look forward to more questions in the comments. And
absolutely.
Brilliant. Let's get this one moving. All right, excellent. Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Darian. Thank you, everyone who's been watching live. This has been another session of Who's Got Clout? And I think we can say that Darian Parrish certainly has clout. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.